We're sitting here with Neil Patel, our set designer for Anna Karenina, a brand new co-production between Theatre St. Louis, Michigan Opera Theatre, and Florida Grand Opera. I'm wondering, I have a few questions for you, and I was wondering if you could just tell me, when was the first time you read Anna Karenina?
Anna Karenina I read in college, actually, many years ago, probably 20 years ago. And then I've recently, of course, reacquainted myself with it, working on this opera that Colin started talking to me about 2.5, 3 years ago.
And what makes this production stand out for you?
Well, it's exciting to be working on a premiere of a new opera, and one based on such a famous and powerful book. So it's just such rich material. So that's very exciting, and it's exciting to work with Colin, who's written the libretto, who I've worked with before in new opera, and he's just a wonderful director for new opera, I think, and a premiere at a new theater, a new Florida Grand Opera's new opera house in Miami is exciting. So there's lots of elements. And my fellow designers, Mark McCullough, who I've worked with many times, and Bob Preziola, whose work I've always admired, and now I have the opportunity to work with him. It makes it sort of it's a very exciting production for me to be part of.
Fantastic. And you're in Colin, what approach did you use to actually arrive to the design of this production?
Well, we actually spoke this production because it has such specific needs. Because it's an adaptation of a novel, it's very episodic in nature, so it goes from location to location. And we didn't want to be literal about that just because it wouldn't be very theatrically interesting, nor would it be very functional. So we wanted to find it. We talked a lot about how to approach this. How do we go from scene to scene seamlessly, in time with the music, never stopping for scenery, and also imaginatively. So it's not about bringing out very literal indicators of where we are. So that was kind of the first. And we toyed around with many different ideas. One, is the turntable idea, which we settled on, was something we initially talked about. Then we talked about maybe different levels, different architectural environment that changed. Just a lot of different ideas. We kind of thought through how it would work, telling the story. And what we came up with in the model is an abstract environment based on the trestles and columns of the train station, which is kind of the key location in the book. It's the beginning and the end, and it's where it's an important location. It has a lot of visual interest, and then we integrated the writing, Tolstoy's actual handwriting in the Cyrillic from the manuscripts of Anna Karenina, which is quite beautiful, as a sort of visual motif on all the walls of the set, and in the translucency in the back, so that we kind of tell the audience immediately, you're not going, that we're in an abstract world, we're in the world of the novel, we're not in the literal houses of these people. And then we introduce furniture and elements, chandeliers, curtains, when we're outside, these kind of elegant, thin birch trees that we all know from Russian literature and from Chekhov plays and so forth that help us see these places, a little miniature wooden church for the outdoor scenes. And these are brought in varying combinations to indicate interior, exterior, and the different places in conjunction with this furniture that will come out in the turntable. And the nice thing about the double turntable is we can bring out one scene and we can kind of pan into it while the other one goes up stage, so that we're not constantly taking things on and off stage. It's more of a kind of fluid transition. So one thing pans to the other. Maybe we see a piece of furniture or a statue for the Admiralty Gardens, for instance, introduced to the turntable upstage during the preceding scene, so that we kind of go seamlessly from scene to scene, much in the way you do with Shakespeare or any of these kind of structure. So that's the approach. And the floor is, the turntable is kind of a golden oak parquet floor, which you might see in houses, Russian houses of the time, surrounded by the surround deck is a gold leaf, kind of aged gold leaf that's familiar in a lot of the background of a lot of Russian icons in the Eastern Church. You see those. So that and the reflective quality of that with the kind of sepia and cream of the set and the scrim creates a kind of airy and dreamlike environment, I think, where we can be more abstract with the locations. Good?
Obviously, the one part you haven't talked about is the challenge of the train. And
the train, yes. And the train, we have it, in the novel and in the libretto, it's described as cheese. And because these are steam engines, that the stage needs to be engulfed in this atmosphere of the steam. And the first image we have of Anna Karenina is her emerging out of the steam. So that's the stage at that, when we introduce her and then when we introduce the set, the stage will be completely bare except for these frames that we have and the writing and the columns, which is literally based on the idea of the train station. And then we'll see her emerge out of the steam. There'll be no other indication of the train station except the very, very powerful light of the train coming from the side, and we'll see that piercing the fog, the steam and her coming out of it, where she's just witnessed this horrible accident. And then at the end of the play, we're going to kind of do a 90-degree turn of this point of perspective, and the train lights will be placed upstage of a scrim. So we'll see her, again, engulfed in the steam, and then we will see a light, a tiny light in the beginning, far in the background, slowly, slowly expanding and approaching as if it's going to hit her. And then that light will get intensely bright to the audience, to the point we just see her in a silhouette steam, and then we go out, and that's how we were going to stage her death.
Good.
And that's kind of it. And then there is an epilogue after that, where there'll be a transition after that blackout into the Levins country estate, where we'll probably bring back the trees and the little church. And these are kind of the most sort of bucolic and maybe hopeful looking elements of the set.